Passion. It's the word every actor uses to explain why they do this. But passion didn't always mean what we think it means. For almost 200 years, passion in English meant one thing: suffering. That's it. It comes from the Latin word pati, which means to suffer, to endure. The strong feeling meaning came later, way later. So when you say acting is my passion, you're closer to saying acting is my suffering than you probably ever thought about. And somewhere along the way, we decided that had to be literally true. That to be a real actor, you had to suffer in life, not just on screen. Is that true? Or can you have a genuinely good life, a healthy one, a stable one, and still be a great actor? That's the actual question behind this whole channel, if I'm honest. So, let's try to actually answer it. Before we begin, hi, I'm Ivan Mader, and you are on the Act Club podcast. If you're curious and you ask yourself a lot of questions, like me, so you can hit subscribe, allow notifications, so you can help me help you answer these questions. Let's go. What surprised me when I look into this properly, the tortured artist isn't some ancient, timeless truth about creativity. It has an actual starting point. Plato talked about it first. He said poetic madness was a gift from the gods. Not something you choose, something that comes from outside you. Almost like a possession. But the version we actually live today, that comes from the Romantics. Early 1800s. That's when artist and madness got tied together on purpose as an aesthetic. Van Gogh became the poster child. Troubled genius, troubled soul, brilliance and suffering treated as the same thing, but something interesting. Some of Van Gogh's best work came after periods of stability, not during his worst episodes. David Lynch talked about it directly. He said, "I don't think it was pain that made him so great. I think his painting brought him whatever happiness he had." And he said it about acting too, not just painting. He also said, "You don't have to suffer to show suffering. You don't have to be filled with turmoil to show turmoil. Have it in the story." So maybe we had it backwards. Maybe the art wasn't coming from the suffering. Maybe the art was the relief from it. There is a slightly different version of this that's worth naming too. Comedians, specifically. There is a documented pattern called the sad clown paradox, using humor as a way to process pain that's already there. Charlie Chaplin talked about this directly. His own childhood, real poverty, his mother's illness, and how that became the root of his comedy, not something comedy erased. Robin Williams lived some version of this for decades, and Jim Carrey too, in his own way. And James Dean said something close to this himself. Listen carefully. "To me, acting is the most logical way for people's neuroses to manifest themselves. In this great need we all have to express ourselves." And Marlon Brando said something close too, decades later, though with a lot more bitterness in it. "Acting is the expression of a neurotic impulse. It's a bum's life." So that's real. Using what's already inside you, letting the work be the outlet for something that's already there, that's not the myth. That's actually just true, and it's honest. But here's the thing that matters. for me. That's different from saying the pain has to keep going or get worse to keep the work good. Charlie Chaplin didn't need his childhood poverty to continue into his 50s to make good films, or great films. The material from earlier was enough. It stayed usable. Using real pain as an outlet, that's valid. Needing new pain or ongoing pain to keep feeling like a real artist, that's the part I don't think it's true. Now, something we talked about a lot on this channel, and I want to bring it back in: the brain mechanism. Your brain encodes identity. We covered that. Once it decides this is who I am, it works to keep you consistent with that, even when it's costing you. We've talked about this with fear of success, imposter syndrome, same mechanism every single time. So, if somewhere along the way you decided I have to be in pain to be a real actor, that's not a fact about acting, that's just an identity your brain latched onto. And I actually went looking for the neuroscience on this, specifically actors suffering identity as its own studied thing, and I couldn't find it. I'm sorry. It's not out there. Yet. At least not that I could locate. So if there are some neuroscientists in my audience, please contact me and we have to do a research on this. Please. So we can back this up perfectly. So I'm not gonna pretend that's been proved scientifically. But what I do know, because it's real, it's established, identity encoding doesn't care what the identity is about. It defends I am someone who has to suffer to be a real actor. That's your identity. And it defends it as hard as it can be, as hard as it defends anything else. Nothing special about artists here. Same wiring, just pointed at the belief that happens to hurt you. And you can actually watch this myth get built generation after generation on real people. Baudelaire, addiction, self-destruction, practically built into his own reputation while he was still alive. He became the template. The poet has to live dangerously or the work isn't real. James Dean, one line from Rebel Without a Cause. You're tearing me apart! Real agony. Completely convincing. Great acting. He died at 24 in a car crash. And after that, this whole mythology got built on top of him. Troubled, doomed, the beautiful, tragic youth. We took a real tragedy and knitting it to mean something bigger. Marilyn Monroe, genuinely hardworking, genuinely talented, and so much of that got flattened after her death into just the sad, fragile blonde who couldn't survive fame. Like her tragedy was more interesting than the actual craft that she worked on. And Heath Ledger. This one matters most. I think because it's the most recent and it's the one person people point directly when they talk about acting itself. Method acting who's gone too far. After The Dark Knight, after he died, the story that spread was the role got inside him, it consumed him. That's the version everyone repeats. But what's actually documented, the official cause of death from the New York Medical Examiner, an accidental combination of prescribed medications. He was dealing with real insomnia at the time, that's documented too. But that's a medical event, not the character consumed him. We took a tragic accident and forced it to fit a story we already believed about what deep acting costs you. 4 different people, 4 different decades, same pattern every time. Real tragedy, and we build a myth on top of it that says that suffering was necessary. Was proof instead of just being what it actually was. But this is the part I actually want you to sit with. You don't need to have a hard life to have real material. Even if you have the perfect life, you always experience bullying at school, a breakup at 17 years old that took you apart, losing a grandparent, a parent. Everybody's got something, even the people who look like they had it easy from the outside. I've experienced loss myself. That's all I will say about it, and it's already enough. More material than I could use in 100 lifetimes foreseen. So if you think you need to go find more pain to be legitimate, you don't. You already have enough. Everyone does. And this is where I think the real question is for anyone who wants this to be an actual career, not just a season of intensity that burns out. If you want a long career, and this is the entire point of this channel, it always has been, you have to actually be good in your own head, not optional. You can't run on a 20, 30-year career on borrowed pain or manufactured crisis or staying wounded on purpose because you think it keeps you sharp. The suffering that's already in your life, that's real, that's usable, that's yours. You don't need to go looking for more of it. And you definitely do not need to protect it, to keep it fresh. Just so you have something to draw on next time you have to cry on cue. Use what's already there. Then let the rest of your life be actually good. Those two things aren't in conflict. I think we've just been told they are for 200 years since the Romantics decided that madness looked interesting. And we arrive where I actually want to land. If there is something in you that is unresolved, something you're still stuck with, something you're still stuck in, I don't think the good move is go use that in a scene and hopes it heals you. I think the good move is to resolve it first, as much as you can actually can. Therapy, time, whatever that takes for you specifically, whatever works for you, because unresolved pain doesn't make you a better actor. It just makes you someone who is unresolved, who also happens to be an actor. But something you already lived through, already sat with, already made some kind of peace with it, that becomes usable. Material you can access on purpose. And then set back down when the scene is over. Same thing we talked about in the method acting episode, actually. Real emotion, real access, real truth in the work, and then walking out of it when it's done. Not a contradiction, that's the actual skill you need. Going deep and coming back. And I want to close on a funny thing. Passion and patience come from the exact same Latin root, pati, to endure. And maybe that's the actual skill this whole thing is asking for. Not suffering for art, the capacity to stay with something difficult, use it when it's useful, and then let it go. You don't have to choose between a good life and a good work. I think that was always a false choice. Somebody just told a better story with the tragedy in it. So, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. If you liked it, please hit subscribe, allow notifications to see more of this content. Until then, join the club because we all deserve happiness, even in our work. Ciao.